Hello everyone and welcome to the new video guide to Magical Musket, the other new archetype from future... Ah, damn, I forgot it again. Damn it. So before we get into it, what's Magical Musket? Well, it's an archetype based on retelling a German opera about a guy who sucks at shooting, so he makes a deal with the devil so he doesn't suck at shooting anymore. That's the that's the main gist of it. When they were being revealed for the OCG and the TCG, many YouTubers immediately jumped to the conclusion that between their hyper consistency and ability to extend and generate a lot of resources, they would be the next Zodiac, they would be the next dominant deck so powerful that an entire metagame would be devoted to, you know, fighting them and dealing with them. And well, when push came to shove, turns out that deck wasn't really all that good. This is a list of all the tops that it got throughout its lifetime, and it's kind of, you know, embarrassing that the supposedly most powerful deck of all time could not even get the top 8 or top 32 at something higher than a regional. Regarding the Magical Musket game plan, it's pretty simple. Remember that time in the DSOD meta where Black Swings were the absolute best deck because they got to activate Blackbird closed from hand? Well, this is this entire archetype game plan. Activate back row from the hand and generate a bunch of advantage, which, you know, sounds very promising on paper. There are reasons why people thought this would be a very dominant deck. So without further ado, let's take a look at all the Magical Musketeer cards, starting with what is probably the most important monster, Caspar. I'm taking this opportunity to look at the two shared effects that every monster in this archetype has. The first being that they can activate their back row from hand, which I think works despite, you know, using a consistency skill like Balance or my monster card, on the basis that this is not an activated effect but a passive one, I think. And the second shared effect, which is an activated effect, that is basically when a spell trap is activated in this card column, any spell trap, something happens. Caspar is pretty great. It's your main searcher, it allows you to extend your plays, it allows you to start your plays to begin with. It's just a fantastic card, you definitely need 3 of them. Next up is Starfire, a monster that when you activate back row in this card column, summons from deck a magical musket monster, which is pretty impressive. You know, this allows you to set up for extension, possibly extra deck plays. It's a definitely fantastic card and probably one of the reasons people went buck wild about this archetype in the first place. 2/3 is fine, it's definitely one of the better ways to get Caspars out. Next up, for the somewhat less impressive Magical Musketeer cards, there's Calamity. Its ability to recur a monster from the graveyard allows you to make some rank 4 plays, which, you know, is always helpful, but other than that, it's not that great of a monster, which is why I think one of it is more than enough. Magical Musketeer is also technically a level 4, but this one is, I think, really bad. It's a really slow and situational effect. It has to target exactly 3 cards in your graveyard. I say don't bother with this one. The archetype has a better way to recur your resources anyway. And this better way is called Magical Musketeer Dock, which pretty simply just gets you back a Magical Musketeer card from your graveyard back to your hand, as long as it's not a card with the same name as the card that was activated in this card column. Now this one is pretty good. You don't really need more than one in my opinion. And something that I failed to mention so far is that most of the Magical Musketeers that we've looked at are level 3, which also enables some rank 3 plays should the need for those arise. One card that I almost forgot to talk about until I realized it was missing is Magical Musketeer Kidbrave, which is the ultra rare of the next main box too, so that would be really embarrassing. I think this one is not a 3 of, but definitely playable at 1 or maybe 2 copies. Its effect seems very situational at first until you realize that just a draw 2 and you possibly get to draw more resources that you can probably use to win the games. Have you thought about that? And last but not least, well, actually least in the monster lineup is Magical Musket Mastermind Zakil, which is supposed to be the devil in the story. This one is really bad. I don't know how else to say it. It doesn't even special summon itself. All it does is just draw your cards during the end phase. All you're getting for this tribute that you've wasted your normal on is a 2500 attack end phase draw. This is not a good card at all. And now for the back row. Cross Domination, you already know it's a good card. Anything that says negate a monster effect is pretty good. Anything that also drops their attack to 0 can be activated during the damage step. It's just a good card. Just a good card. Play 2 to 3 of this one. It's a good card. Steady Hands is a very funny combat trick. The fact that it doubles the original attack and not the current attack means it's good against like stuff like, you know, Gale the Whirlwind, for instance. But even then, I don't think you really need it, considering the archetype is choke full of like removal, and we just saw a way to beat over monsters that is more applicable in my opinion. Steady Hands is a one-up at most. Desperado is the first trap we're going to take a look at, and it's pretty good. The only downside to this card is that it only pops face-up cards, so don't make the mistake if you're facing a deck that is setting 3 cards in a back row and passing. Don't make the mistake that you already do make with Mekk-Knight's red guy or whatever its name is, to activate this card when the only face-up cards on the field are your own. You are going to get dunked, and this is going to be very funny for me to see. Sorry. Anyway, run 2 to 3 of this card, it's pretty good. Dancing Needle is basically triple DD Crow, and DD Crow is pretty good in the current metagame, so definitely play at least one of this card. It's going to instantly win your games against Galaxy, against Infernoids. It's gonna be really fun. And for the last card of the archetype, Fiendish Jail, I'm kinda torn up. On the one hand, it's a pretty good way to secure and protect your monsters, and it also rewards you when it is destroyed by getting you another card that you can use. On the other hand, it does clog your back row and eventually prevents you from getting the best out of your Magical Musketeer cards effects in order to, you know, extend further, get more cards back, get cards from your deck, etc. I think despite this, the fact that it is easily searchable with Caspar means it's probably a safe one-off to be playing. Here's a deck list. The recommended skill for this one is Balance, considering that I don't think it interferes with the deck's ability to play their turn 1 or setup even going second, considering you can still activate your Magical Musket cards from your hand despite monster effects being negated, activated effect at least being negated on your side. The extra deck is probably going to be a bunch of, you know, rank 3s and rank 4s, maybe Dark Rebellion, maybe Marcin, cards that can rank up from there, like, you know, you make Giga Brilliant into Corbage, into Gaia, or something stupid like that. And probably a bunch of Link monsters as well. I hear Nightmare Phoenix is going to be pretty good. Couple more cards worth talking about in this list. Duality helps you dig for the more important cards, namely Caspar or Starfire if you really can't find Caspar. And Lance is exclusively, almost exclusively for Book of Moon, which really ruins this deck's entire game plan, considering your Magical Musket needs to be face up on the field in order for you to be able to activate your back row at all. Pros and cons of the deck. As far as the pros goes, I think it's a neat little control deck that's pretty consistent, especially thanks to the ability to run Balance and part of Duality without interfering too much with the deck's game plan. It's a back row deck that doesn't lose to back row removal, which I think is really funny, and it forces your opponent to play around cards that you're gonna have in your hand. I think it creates very interesting play scenarios in which your opponent is going to become paranoid regarding cards in your hand, almost as much as if they were seeing 3 sets as soon as they started their turn. And last but not least, it's kind of budget-ish. Like I said, Kid Brave is not necessarily a hard one-off. You can play get 2 copies, but you can definitely play the deck probably without it, or maybe just at 1 copy. And for the cons, well, first and foremost, this is a deck that, like I've said before, really hard loses to Book of Moon, because your Magical Musketeer monsters need to be face up on the field in order for you to activate your Magical Musket back row cards. Second, it's a column-based deck that's going to have to deal with Mekk-Knight, which is also a column-based deck that is going to use your own columns to their advantage. Third, it's a deck that requires a lot of micro decision and resource management. What back row do you search with Caspar? Do you activate the cross domination now or later? Moderately high skill ceiling on this deck that is going to prevent you from achieving wins a lot of the time. And oh yeah, last but not least, but the attack values are really low across the board. Like, sure, you have some cards that help you beat over big threats and beaters and stuff, but you only have a finite number of those, and your opponent is going to be able to recut Deviati every turn of the game. Oops! Final thoughts for the time being. I think this deck still has potential. It's a deck that seems more fit for duel links than it was for the TCG and the OCG, thanks to, you know, the smaller deck size allowing it to naturally get more consistency and also being able to use very specific skills. But I don't think it's going to match up too well against current meta threats. This being said, between its really low building cost and the very shiny cards that negate monster effects and get you more cards and stuff, you should probably be ready to face a lot of those on ladder on the upcoming months. That's it for the video. Thank you for watching. I don't have a picture of any of my pets to share this time around, so here's a very old picture of me holding a lizard. But that was from that one time I went to Australia. It was pretty fun, all things considered. Remember to like and comment the video if you've liked it. Comment sub that you think I got right or wrong, or maybe missed, like that Fire King's synergy with the Cosmo cards that I completely didn't know about. Thank you Extra Shorty for this one. And if you've really liked the video, make sure to share it around with your friends and families. And yeah, Happy New Year's Eve everyone. Bye bye.